Welcome to On the Rec Yard, Women's Prison Podcast, where we are live on the... Hey, everybody. It is Wednesday night, and we are On the Rec Yard, Women's Prison Podcast. I'm Marcy Marie.
I'm Tunchi.
Why'd you hesitate?
Well, honey, you're coming in full surround sound in my ears. This headset is pretty immaculate, and you're just like it's like you're inside of my skull right now.
How wonderful for me. I feel like I could manipulate your mind.
No, you're going to drive me into insanity probably. So, but you can
Jerry
hear me.
Swain, Jerry, we see you. Thank you for waiting. I'm sorry we were 25 seconds late starting today. Tunchi at the last minute realized she didn't have anything to drink, and so that's what was going on. Austin, we see you. Welcome to the show. Thank you for watching, supporting. Carrie Lynn, we see you. Laurie, we see you. We see y'all coming in the chat. Thank you so much. Audra Lee, see you. We see you. Yeah, welcome to the show. Thank y'all for always showing us love and support. Thank you for commenting, sharing the live, liking the live, all of those great things. And if you're somewhere where you're listening to the podcast, maybe you're on Apple Podcast or Spotify or iHeartRadio, y'all leave us a review. If you're driving, don't do it while you're driving. Pull over.
Pull over the first on the side of the freeway
No,
because
no,
y'all.
no. That will make headlines. Woman
It's
gets
wait,
hit by a
hey,
car on the side of the highway because she was trying to leave a review for On the Rec Yard, Women's Prison Podcast.
honey, it's not the worst thing I've ever said. So,
And then they're going to play that clip where it's saying the co-host instructed her to pull to the side of the highway. Don't pull
hey,
to the side of the highway. Y'all just
what
wait to exit.
whatever needs to happen. Um,
Mother's Day weekend's coming up.
it is. You want to?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about prison moms and not mothers that are in prison, but the mothers that we adopted while we were in prison.
And who adopted us?
Yeah, and who adopted us? And who took on that big job?
Whew.
Yeah, we're just gonna be shouting out the women, the old schools that took care of us. I see Jerry Swaim's in the comments. Jerry, honey, Tunchi that is not Prince. That is
That
Sharon
is
Stone.
that's Sharon Stone. Now, if you've been listening to all the episodes, now Miss Jerry, you're telling on yourself because I spent 15 minutes of an episode two episodes ago talking about Basic Instinct and Sharon Stone. She's here with us. She's live in the studio in this poster behind me. So
Goodness gracious. What do we mean twins? Do you
I
know I'm
don't
having
know.
twin grandbabies? I don't know
Maybe
either.
maybe Lynn Fan Terrible. Lynn Fan I hope I'm not one of those people that are
You are.
pronouncing some well, maybe they mean that I don't know, somehow maybe they mean me and Sharon Stone are twins. I don't know.
You know what you just reminded me? You remember those old episodes of Simpsons where Bart would do the prank calls to Moe's Tavern and have Moe shout out all kinds of crazy names?
Yeah, that's why I was getting nervous. I was like, I hope I'm not doing that right now because I've seen some reporters on those bloopers for reporters that they do that, and it's like, oh my god.
We have a great show for y'all tonight. We're going to really dive into the ways that we form pseudo families, incarcerated women form pseudo families, and the way that we connect with one another. And what and I'm sorry guys, these comments are coming in hot, and my who I thought was my good friend Destiny Villarreal is watching from Facebook, and she's reminding me how I severely mispronounced a
Mangled.
state representative's name at a press
Yeah,
conference, and I didn't just do it once. I think I said his name a couple times.
yeah. Busey. and
It
Marcy, was like, "Boosie." It was a real joy. Y'all, I was there, and she looked at me while she was talking, and she could see by the look on my face that, yep, she'd said it wrong, and she just
Well,
had to keep going.
do you remember prior to taking the podium at the press conference how I said Busey, Busey to you? I said, "This I'm saying it right, right?" And I practiced
Yep.
it several times, and then I went to that podium and proceeded to call that man a name that rhymes with the female anatomy. I messed up.
Representative Bussy Boosie. It was great. I loved it.
Carrie Lynn coming in with those, Simpsons. John, we're live. We're live. We're talking about
We're
Mother's
just
Day.
honey, we're now Marcy doesn't want to admit this, but we're the same age, and what I'm gonna say is that a lot of times women our age will repeat stories over and over. So y'all hear probably the same stories a lot, at least from me.
Uh,
They
I listen, we are talking about prison moms. We got an old school prison mama right here. Jerry Swaim. Jerry says that she went from being prison mom to being prison granny. and,
She
that,
did.
and we had a lot of grannies in there too. So for sure, for sure. Um,
Well,
well, happy Mother's Day week, y'all. Celebrating your moms. I hope you're celebrating yourselves. For those of you that have your own biological children, or are you mothering some other children or cats or dogs or husband who we don't know who you're mothering? But happy Mother's Day to you. We're going to be talking about prison moms, y'all. And before we do that, let's do this. Hey, Toonch, how was your week?
honey, that I just want to tell you, maybe this is a side conversation for later, but our clips
And
be
yet
cutting
you
off.
continue.
Yeah, that's right. Our clips be cutting off too short, and I know it's not you.
I'm
Um,
just hitting the button, I don't know why, but
I
I'll
don't
tell
know.
you what, we have big things coming for the
Damn
show.
it. I can't do this with you anymore. I can't do this.
We we truly do. We have big things coming. Just hang in there for it. How was your week?
How was my week? I'm gonna move one of these headphones back because I can't even hear myself talk. It's weird. How
Okay.
was my week? He said, "Okay." Um, I don't remember it, and again, we go through this routine every week. I don't remember. Oh, we I believe it was last week you were in town, right?
I
You did
was.
the yeah. Boy, that feels like 8 months ago. But we did a film screening. We went down to the Capitol for some hearings. We worked in the office on stuff. We went to Cheer Up Charlie.
I'm trying to think. It I w I felt like I was on a plane last week, but I wasn't.
Uh-uh.
No.
It was in your
Mm-mm.
own mind.
Clearly. Clearly. Somebody I was talking to somebody today, and I was like, "Yeah, we have to do this date and this date because 'cause I'll be in El Paso these days and then Chicago and then back to Chicago," and somebody said, "You're for for somebody that moves around so much, every meeting I have of you has that same background. Somehow they always catch me at home." So here I am.
Miss Jerry, you have seen The Simpsons.
She
Come
has
on.
never watched The Simpsons.
I know Miss Jerry has seen Simpsons. So, well, I think the question for you as a mom, what are you doing this weekend? Are you anything?
Well, I'm gonna have my kiddos here. I should have my girls. They're trying to get they're trying to get here. We were planning on swimming, but I'll tell you what, I got in the pool last weekend and it was warm-ish enough, like to swim with the baby. But has rained for 2 days.
Mm,
And
water
y'all
be
know that.
cold.
Yeah, so I'm worried about that. There was actually John says There was actually women guards who were prison moms for some male inmates.
Well, that's interesting. I guess I never thought about that before.
And how fascinating is that? Because the only thing that I think about when I think about female prison guards in a male prison is the obvious, like bow chicka wow wow kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I
Well,
don't
because
think
I
about
I don't remember any, and maybe there were. I mean, I think there were guards that were a little bit more motherly, but I don't remember any guards that that at least in my time and where I was at that we just really was like maybe one or two, I guess. Was like mama, mama whoever, you know what I mean? I just don't remember it. Did y'all have a lot of mother figures as guards?
I can't think of one that we referred to like, "Oh, mama so and so's working tonight." I don't remember that, but I do remember and I'm just gonna shout her out because I don't think she works in the system anymore, but I will say this. This lady, she was about policy and rules. We always knew what to expect with her, but she wasn't ever on that extra,
Mhm.
and she was somebody that if especially if you were in old school or had been there for a minute and you were going through something, she was somebody that would let you sit down and talk things out with her. And she never got personal about her life. But and that was Valerie Moody,
Well, Valerie, if
Officer
you're listening,
Moody.
thanks for being a decent human being and a mother figure to people that probably needed it.
And I'll tell you what, this is why I don't think she's in the system anymore is because she's, but I still see her in the free world offering the same advice, same good, solid, do the right thing kind of. Yeah. So shout out to her. That's the only one I can think of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't unless our friends that are on the podcast on the chats, if they know of I just can't remember I just never saw I don't know. And so I never considered that they would be that way, the maybe the older women at men's facilities would treat
And
some of
good for them too.
Mhm.
Good for them because those, everybody incarcerated, everybody, period, on the planet needs a mama, whether it's your own mama or not, whether that worked out for you and you had a good mom like I happen to have, but or I still have her. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think good for them. Thanks for sharing that, John. Who knew? He goes on to tell us that these women were older ladies who just needed a job and were real laid back. Guys could bounce things off to them and get honest replies. Fascinating.
Wow, I just don't ever remember that. The only, again, the only people that I ever saw that way were other older formerly I mean, older incarcerated, sorry, what a long day. Incarcerated women, and you certainly didn't get that vibe from any of the older men, like the grandpa, like, because they were all nasty.
But we
They were
did
all
call
perverted,
we had some that we called Pawpaw,
but they
Pawpaw so and
also
so.
but you knew that they were nasty.
No, we had don't
That's
don't tell
wild.
me about my experience. Listen, how can I not remember the guy how can I not remember his name? He was an older Lane Murray, help me out. Who was Mr. Blake?
So he
It was
was
Mr.
nice and he
Blake.
wasn't, like,
He had
creepy?
retired and come back, and you know why he came back? Because he was putting his grandchild through college, so he
Okay.
wanted that income,
Well, I
and
apologize to all the older
we
men
would
that
say,
are
"Who's working?" "Oh, Papa Blake's in the building," and that meant it was just gonna be chill because, first of all, A, we respected him enough not to do too much on him, and B, he was a much older guy, and he was just gonna sit, and he might even doze off, God bless.
well, I love that for y'all. The
Yeah.
all the older men that were like little grandpa figures, they ended up just being a disappointment because they were now, I'm gonna tell you something. Penny Kempt is one of my favorite former employees at TDCJ. She's very, very, motherly.
Eric
I would say that,
Hampton
yeah.
coming in hot saying, "I had a prison mom." It was assistant warden Penny Kempt. CeeLo's
Yeah.
coming in, "Belinda was the best play mom ever," and I know we're gonna get to talking about Belinda.
Oh, yeah. Now, see, Los, I got a story, and you better hope I don't tell it.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, so some of the staff and I did not expect this show to go in that direction, truly, to think about my memories. Bad memories take over
Yeah.
sometimes.
No,
So
for
I
sure.
when I think about that part of the experience is having that authority over you and all the worst stories come out, I forget about some of those little moments, where so
I
so
don't
shout
I
out to
think
y'all.
yeah, I think for myself, maybe it's just that I was very after TYC, and I had a lady at TYC, her name was Linda McMillan. I don't know how old she'd be now because she was a middle-aged lady then, and she was a little lesbian, and, she just was drawn to me and would look after me, and she was one of the supervisors, and so maybe for her, but, I mean, after TYC and how staff abused us, I didn't do staff, period. Like, on any type of emotional I mean, there were some that I got along with and liked more than others. I was a little, nicer or playful with in some way. Maybe the bosses that worked in education, but I just had such a block when it came to staff. I really always in my mind, they were enemy, and I used to say they remind me of Dobermans, right? Like, could be so loving and sweet and then just turn on you. So they were unpredictable to me, so I really didn't see them that way.
Well, that's fair. That's fair after what you experienced, what you and thousands of other folks that have gone through the youth system here in Texas and across the country, frankly, your experience with staff, of course you shut that possibility down
And we were
of ever
supposed to
even
see them.
remotely trusting.
Marcy, we were supposed to see them like caregivers and these parental figures, right? Right. They're supposed to cultivate a sense of duplicating a family so you can practice your therapy. And honey, they took full advantage to do
Mm,
all the ferocious things
yeah.
they did to us. So I don't know. In my mind, staff was just always, even no matter how nice they were non non I don't want to say non-entities to me, but like some part of me was shut off from really seeing them as anything other than dangerous
They were
at the end of the day.
supposed to be placed there to kind of be parental figures and in a place where most of the folks that they were over have already endured abuse in the home setting of some sort, whether from their parents or not. Now you're in this institution. So, no, naturally, you didn't feel that. I will say this with staff. There was never like, I use the word trust very lightly when I said that because there was never an officer in my entire 10 years that I felt that I could trust because I just think that when it really boiled down to it, they were gonna have each other's backs, and we watched it too many times, like, one of them either do something very atrocious or tell a lie about an incarcerated person to get them
Not
hemmed up.
not stand up for us.
Right, they
Yeah.
just weren't gonna do it. And there was one young officer, her mom was over commissary, and I thought she was pretty decent, and I kind of met her after I was coming out of my severe mental health crisis. I had gotten back from the psych center, and I was still really trying to manage my emotions, and she was really tolerant of that. I was in cell block housing, and, um, but then when it came down to it, an officer had completely told a lie about Brittany, saying that Brittany threatened her. This officer that I felt like I could trust was right there and literally just rode with her fellow officer, who that officer that lied about Brittany, we were all there. A chow hall full of people, all these statements, it doesn't matter. Whatever an officer says, that's gold.
That's
If
all that
you're in
matters.
white, doesn't matter. It was Sergeant Meyer's daughter.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Lieutenant Myers, his wife, Lieutenant Myers, was on the same unit. It was her stepdaughter. It's wild.
Not surprised or shocked.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of our favorite people, our prison moms and our
Yes.
prison grandmas, our
Yeah.
prison grannies. That's what we call them, granny.
We formed entire families in there. And sometimes it was a family that, like, you're my play sister and you're my play mom, and so that's also your play mom. But sometimes it was independent of that.
Mhm.
uh yeah, so did you, I know you had moms. You were so young going into the system.
Um, let me think all the way back to Riverside. I actually I hadn't thought about it in a long time. Her name was Kim Lavelle. Um, who I met her daughter almost 20 years later. But we lived in a 4 dorm at Riverside, and I was with Aurora Moreno, and this was that dorm that I told y'all about where we lived in. That was they didn't bust up couples or any of our family structure for about 3 years. Marcy, we lived in that dorm, all of us, and Kim was the clerk in maintenance. And we've talked about it before here too, about status, about jobs and clerks and more privileges and so anyway, Kim called me son, and there was actually a girl named Rob who everybody called Pops. And so and we had Flo and Granddaddy. There was Granddaddy. I haven't thought of them in years. Um, but that was a family structure. Those are the only people that I ever referred to, who, we as a unit, in that dorm for 3 years really saw each other that way and really felt that way about each other. And then eventually, you know what happens? People get busted up and moved, um, and I don't think I ever formed that type of a family like structure. Even when I got locked up the second time, I mean, I called Miss Jerry, or Granny Smith, Ann Smith, who passed away of COVID, because that was their title and that was their position and role there. But I myself kind of kind of lived more, just in this more independent. It's accepted by everybody, but not in that type of structure like I did when I was about 20, 21. But yeah, don't get me started on Pops messed around with my girlfriend.
John's asking how much time you did.
Oh, almost 20 years. And I'll tell y'all the story one day how I got Pops back. I don't know if I should. It might be illegal. So I don't, maybe I won't. Um, but anyway, yeah, that was, but I'm going to tell you something. I would call people by their nickname, but I never called Kim mom. I called Kim Kim. And a lot of people called me son, or something like that. But it was not quite like that for me, just because for the reasons I've already explained of
Right.
just not trusting people or whatever, but that was the closest that I ever was in a.
Just for full clarification, in women's prisons in Texas, I don't know about other states, y'all. I can't speak on that. If, Tunchi's saying that she was referred to as son, she was referred to as brother. If you are even slightly mask presenting, maybe you just walk hard and don't put on mascara.
Mhm.
You are a him. You're a
Yes,
he.
that's a he, the him, yep. And I used to, um, I'd get real now when the guards would do when our people did it, it didn't bother me, but when guards did it, I remember I got into a whole thing with Miss Banks one time. She referred to me as he. I said, "I am not a he. I support transgender people, but I am not transgender. I am a she, and because to me it felt like you were being funny. But when we did it, it was, I don't know, it was just part of our. But I'm going to be honest with you, Marcy. Did you live on y'all's unit? Did people ever refer to items? And maybe we've talked about this before, like inanimate objects as a he. I
Yeah,
put I put him down on the table. It's a cup. I put
yeah.
it. Yeah, I had to break out of that a long time ago.
I
I don't know
catch
why we did
myself
that.
I catch myself, doing it now, um, and yeah, I still will refer to mask presenting folks as he. I try not to look, and I'll just be straight with you. When we were in prison, it just pronouns weren't a big deal, and this, kind of focus on people identifying and wanting other people to respect pronouns, which I'm down with. Like, I want to respect whatever pronoun you want to use, whatever name you want to use, it's all good to me. Doesn't affect me negatively. But what I'm saying is we went from this culture inside where pronouns were just kind of fluid. It didn't matter. And so Brittany, my wife, who is mask presenting, I get home and I'll be talking to my family about her and I'll be using he and she in the same sentence. And my family who very much cares about respecting one's desire and one's identity, always was asking me for clarification. And finally, I had to tell Brittany, like, tell my family you don't care, because Brittany
Right.
doesn't care. She happens to be
Yeah.
someone that she identifies as a woman, but it does not offend her at one bit. It shouldn't even think twice about it if you say he, her, or sir or whatever. So
Yeah, I mean, it really it because we lived it. I think you said it right, Logan. Is because actually gender was a construct and fluid. Now, I know there might be people here that don't agree with that. Whatever. But it is. Um, I don't know. It was very unique in there, and but it was interesting that we would refer to anybody that looked masculine as he or him. And guess what? Sometimes I catch one of y'all when y'all are talking about me, they'll be like, "Oh, he's just like that."
mhm.
And I'm like, "Okay, well."
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. But, so people would call you son
Yeah, so we had
or
play
brother.
brothers,
Mhm.
play uncles, play dads. I didn't ever have a play dad. I did have a play mom, and that's what we're focusing on for Mother's
Who was
Day.
it? I don't think you've ever even told any of us.
Well, her name was Patty. I only had one play mom. Now, there were plenty of old schools that looked out for all of us. I think I went into the system in my 30s, so I mean, I was 30, so, already there was a lot of young folks coming in, and I kind of took on a more maternal role, but I had one, Mama Patty, and, uh, she she was very, and still is, very opinionated, and I remember thinking I'd have to tell her often, because just how you would throw hands for your mama out here in the free world, you would do that for your mama inside, and I would have to tell her, like, "Lady, you you don't have to tell everything, every thought that comes up here, it doesn't have to come out of your
Yeah.
mouth."
You're gonna get us in trouble.
Oh, Angela Thornton says, "My mama was Laura Cummings, who is my very good friend."
Oh,
Um,
grouchy Laura Cummins. Where is she
yeah,
watching?
she's not watching, honey. She doesn't hardly get on social media at all. I have to remember when we have events and stuff, I have to remember that to send her a complete separate invite, because she ain't gonna see anything that happens online. So
I say it's like Belinda. Belinda was a mom for a long time, and then she became older. But people always look to Belinda as a mom. And Celos, if you're still here, whoo, Celos used to give Belinda the blues. the blues, and, I don't wanna tell the story on you, Silos, I'll tell it one day when you're not here. But they cracked me up because, Silos was that's my son. I mean, that's just what you do, and Belinda ran the dorm like a mother figure. Now, maybe a mother figure from, like The Godfather or something, like, maybe it like, she was a tough mother figure, but she's still very much she broke up our squabbles. She fixed conflict. If the commissary list, who's going out the door, if there's arguments about it, Belinda's gonna handle it, and everybody respected her to do that. That was her role.
Jerry says she was Belinda's granny.
Yeah. Granny, was in the dorm with me and Belinda and Callie, and, yeah.
Malibu's watching, and Malibu came into the system. I think she was 18. Malibu, I think you were 18 when I met you. So she definitely had some prison mom experience. Shout out to Purdy Clark. And Tammy says she had a prison dad, Jackie Christian.
And when a prison mom, a play mom, uh, has got her little family, just like Belinda did with everybody, you get told on to that prison mom. "Hey, I
Yeah.
wanna let you know, your son was out on the rec yard doing this, this, and this, so then it's mom that has to go and sit down over here and sit your ass down," and, people will go and tell to run you in to your mom, to your prison mom, or your prison granny, straight up.
Well, I had a lot of prison children to keep up with.
You did. Boy,
I'm
you
still
were
keeping up with them out here in the free world. They still wearing me out. My listen, my prison child, one of my prison child's children, and I'm
Are
just
you
gonna
high?
put her name on out there, Nayala
Yeah, nailed it.
Thomas. Thomas was my prison son, one of them in the free world now, and I message him on Facebook, and he didn't respond. And then I looked and he hadn't posted for like 24, this was last year. He hadn't posted for like 24 hours. And I message again and not even reading the message, like how on Facebook Messenger you can see if somebody's seen it. And I'm just like, that's it. Something's weird. And so I make a Facebook post and I'm like, has anyone seen or talked to? Like it's not answering. It's weird. And it just went into this big frenzy. His free world cousins out here are messaging me and I message them back like, I don't know. Do I need to drive over there? I mean, we're just like planning and planning. And he had been asleep. He had just been, he had not been feeling well and he had been in bed. He said, Mom, you have gotten everybody has been that people been knocking on my door. So my children out here are like, "So mom, you just went," and all of this, revealed itself on Facebook, and so my free world biological children out here are like, "So mom, you just started this whole thing because somebody didn't get back to you in 24 hours?" I'm like, "Well, think how my reaction would be if it's the same." I feel like that's the same kind of maternal instinct I have, like, "What's wrong? Why aren't they getting back to me? What's going on?"
Yeah. I I'm trying to think, maybe if I had gotten older in there, which I mean I got there again when I was 30. I was no longer the teenager I was when I had my more solidified prison family when I was at Riverside. Um but I mean it was 30. I left when I was 40, 42, something like that. So I guess I just well, and it's I guess I just never gave off a parental. 'Cause nobody ever saw me as
You weren't dad
son or
you
daughter
weren't
or
dad or
dad
mom
or mom or anything like that, no. And I
because you
had a
went to
girlfriend.
work,
Mhm.
you ran the library, You didn't let people check out extra books or take the newspaper articles home.
Well,
And then
I
you came
well,
home, you
and
ate with one person, whoever your girlfriend was at the time.
well, I participated in group things,
Like what?
like when we would have parties and stuff, when we would do spreads. I mean, I did, but I guess I just never, well, and I maybe it was more of, your aunt.
You were
Right.
my little old lesbian aunt.
Well, and it's interesting talking about gender is that when I would first get to a unit, when I accidentally got moved to Riverside for a couple months and then went back to Mountain View, like I've told y'all before, that sergeant came up to me in the chow hall in front of everybody and said, "Am I gonna have problems out of you?" And I'm like, "No, I'm here for a college class I didn't want." Like because I have short hair and yes, I look like a stereotypical lesbian, or a butch lesbian or soft butch, whatever you want to call me. Um, but when I would get to a unit, I would have to endure that for a while. And then eventually, I don't know if because staff would get to know me and other incarcerated people get to know me, they're like, oh, oh, she like my gay aunt. Like she was just like this little gay aunt that you would have in your family that like lives with her cats and clerks at the library, right? So maybe that's how people saw me. I mean, I feel like people saw me as a um, someone to go to for information or teaching or medical stuff or but never like a maternal.
There was a like, you could just kinda call mom if they were older and they kind of just were maternal and they were like the dorm mom, but for somebody to be like your mom or for a kiddo to to start calling me mom, just calling me mom's one thing, but there's a conversation, an agreement kind of that takes place when it's official, like an official adoption. Like, I mean, it's like, "Hey, I remember my play daughter in there literally just, "Hey, I really do want you to be my mom. Like, really, I really do want you." And then there was sometimes wild ones that I knew I couldn't handle that would just call me mom, and you could just call me mom, but I knew in my mind, like, "I
Was
love
like the
you."
neighborhood kids, right?
Yes,
Like that's not really,
yes,
but they're
yes,
they're not my kids, but I'm a mom figure to them. But my kids, now that's different,
right, right. I can't go to bat for all of y'all,
right?
for
I
every
can't
little thing,
can't do this.
because
Well,
the
and I
same way in the free world, how y'all have I have watched my mama march across the street over a neighbor taking my brother's football because it landed in his yard. I've watched that same way she's pounding on the door. That that happens. They tell on each other. And people in the dorm, just like you were saying, will come. And if you have a wild one, if it's a neighborhood kid, you just say, okay, well, let's all talk to him. But if it's your kid, you can say, no, that's
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I'm remembering now too, I in that first 10 years when I did get busted up out of that dorm, I went to Terrace. Charlie, if you're watching, remember when we got caught in the library? But Marcy, that we didn't get caught. Had a lookout and anyway, they knew something. We were on opposite sides of the room when the guard walked in. But I got sent to Terrace and somebody that taught peer education with me, her name was Mama Kathy. And I called her Mama Kathy, and she was like that matriarchal figure to a lot of us. And I had someone then that she did see her as son. Like she didn't call me that, but like I guess that was kind of a little bit of a family structure because Kathy was the hub. She was the matriarch of our little group, and golly, I can't remember my friend's name, but we looked alike. People would all through that first 10 years, people would say, "Oh, her name was Maggie Ward." They said, "Do you know Maggie Ward? Because y'all look just alike, except she was shorter."
Maggie
And
was your short sister.
Yeah, well, brother. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah.
Fair enough.
So, Mama Kathy was that was very much her mother, and she mother henned her a lot. Um, and I don't know whatever happened to Maggie. But anyway, I'm remembering Kathy that even though like I said, I would call people, that was their name, Mama or Granny, but I still, I don't know, and nobody called me that. Could you imagine? I don't know. I mean, y'all call me Grandpa now, or
Pappy.
or Pappy.
I don't know.
It's super sexy. Thanks, by the way,
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
Oh, here
Old
comes old
grandpappy.
Pappy, here, granddaddy coming on over here.
John says in the men's units that they had youngsters that a group of them would look over. And, I do see a lot of that, a lot of male males on social media talking about how old schools looked after them. So we definitely know that happened. So what is look over? What does a prison mom do besides get on to you? I'm
Oh,
gonna
she cooks.
Yes,
She
Lord.
cooks. Lord have mercy, she cooks, like Belinda. Well, I was just talking to her this morning, and she was like, moving into her own place, and, I said, "Well, a group of us wanna come out there, give you a little home, welcoming, home warm what do they call it? Housewarming?"
Housewarming.
Come on,
Uh-huh.
Jennifer.
That's how they
And,
do it in the free world.
and I was like, "But you do know that means you're cooking. You're making my deviled eggs and tamales." And her friend was like, "Oh, man, that's her day." I said, "No, no, no. Uh-uh. Belinda already knows that she's gonna cook." It didn't matter if it was her birthday, Belinda cooked. That's what moms and grannies in the dorm did. And we washed dishes. I did a lot of dishwashing.
My dad and brother cook on Mother's Day out here.
That's nice.
Yeah, but I did a lot of prison cooking for my kids inside, for sure. And that's what Caitlin says. Thank you, Lord, for my prison mama cooking.
I
Yeah.
didn't I just I outsourced that to my girlfriends. If she lived in the dorm, if she didn't live in the dorm, well, I mean, this is why Marcy posted the picture of what my cupboard looked like. Um, I eat out of tuna packs and V8. I hate to cook. I can make spaghetti. Um, but
But do you? You can
sometimes I
make
do. I
spaghetti, do
can.
you?
I did
I have
last night.
never once seen a noodle in your house. I mean, I've seen a ramen noodle.
It's up against the side. If you look, that yellow
Oh,
box on the side. But you know, I didn't cook for myself, so it was either the mom of the dorm. She may not been my mom, but she's cooking for everyone, and I will contribute and wash dishes. So thank God there is some matriarchal head in this dorm that is looking out for all of us.
I'll tell you what else prison moms do. When you get in trouble with the law, prison moms have been in there for longer than you, and they know about who they can talk to and how you can talk to them and how you can often talk them out of writing a case.
Yeah, I mean, you got a good point there because we're going to Belinda or Mama Kathy and begging, please, will you go talk to them?
Yeah, yeah. You have been here for 20 years, you have a rapport. Yeah, thinking they ran the TV.
They did run the TV. You're right.
They they finalized any kind of the TV schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. Because guess what? I'm going to tell you something about Miss Jerry right here in her face. We're watching that Young and the Restless. Now, of course, everybody else in the dorm, yes, too, but that Young and the Restless was on. And it's a problem. Somebody go get Belinda because so and so's not turning the TV or that football.
If you could not get out of the dorm for your path, if you these are system failures, these are staff problems. If you had a lay-in for medical at 10:30, and at 10:35 they're still not letting you out. You went and got your prison mom, and
Yes.
they walked up there with you to the picket.
Yes, poor Belinda. I'm telling you, I just think of Belinda and Kathy and Jerry and, the older women that had been there for a while. My God, thank God for them, especially when a lot of us got there as 17 and 18-year-olds. We just we were living our young lives there, just getting into not even bad trouble, but just getting into little just you but Marcy, how often did we hear the prison moms and grandmas say, "Ooh, baby, these young people, these young people." And I was like, "What's the problem? Oh my God, you don't like us playing music. You don't want us up playing dominoes, blah, 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 blah." Now, that second 10 years, when I started approaching 35, 38,
All
40,
right, Pappy.
I'm like, "Ooh, y'all getting on my nerves with all this music. Be quiet. I'm trying to read my book." And it was thank God for the prison moms and grandmothers that, because there were the older ladies that really some of them were granny, the grannies, and they were mean and running our asses in. Not our prison moms didn't. Our prison grandmas didn't.
Yeah, no. That those those old school snitchy ones weren't really prison moms. And if somebody called them prison moms, they were just as shiesty. They were
Right.
it was
If your grandma is your granny or your prison mom is so and so, then something not right with you either.
yeah. If
Oh,
your
Miss Joy.
prison mom is dropping I-60s on everybody in the dorm and walking to the picket with little snitch notes, because that's how they do. They go to the picket with this tiny little note and act like they need a roll off of toilet paper or an I-60, and they slide the note in there.
Miss Jerry says she didn't watch Young and the Restless. She watched Star Trek and Highlander. Now Miss Jerry does like her fantasy stuff and her vampire stuff. Miss Jerry, I can't believe you didn't watch Young and the Restless. That was mandatory. Or am I thinking of Don't Kill Me? I'm thinking of Kay Duncan. Kay Duncan was
You're mistaking your grannies?
well, I'm sure
Everybody
people,
watched Young and the Restless.
but they
It was
did.
on.
I did, and I hated it.
The
I'd
day
have to.
was planned around it.
Hmm. I'd come in from work. And in that last incarceration, I come in, Alexa would come in, we'd sit down. I hated Young and the Restless. I did. A lot of times you were sitting there waiting for chow on Mountain
Yes.
View. And so you're waiting for chow. You ain't got no choice. You're sitting there because you got to be in the day room when they call chow. And then that would be over. Then Bold and Beautiful would come on. And then The Talk or one of those, The View or some shit. And I hated it. Even the sound of it. Let me tell y'all a story real quick. When I got locked up the second time I was in jail, Marcy, I was cuckoo. I hadn't spoken. I couldn't speak to people. I was so overwhelmed. And I was in the drunk tank, in this observation tank, right? So they finally moved me to they called it separation, which was ADSEG, but it was across from the day room. And I remember I just think about it now and just throw up. I was in there with nothing because I was a security threat, so they wouldn't give me anything but a little roll off tissue. And I hear that noise. Dun, dun, dun. Those first chords of Young and the Restless. Dun, 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 dun. And I remember sobbing because I was like, I had forgotten this and this is where I'm headed. I'm I don't know how to explain it. So if I ever hear the inklings of Young and the Restless, it's a real trauma response.
This is good to know. I feel like it's your Achilles heel. Like, I could download that sound on my phone if I
You
ever
don't
need
do
to.
that.
I won't do that.
You
That
don't
would
do
be
that to
silly.
me. You remember that time you slept over and you were on the couch and you dropped your bottle of water and I jumped
Yeah.
up?
Yeah.
I can't control what will happen if you trigger me like that?
The men were getting down to Young and the Restless too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, was it Michael that said one of his worst arguments and fights was behind, the American Music Awards when Taylor Swift was gonna be on there because he has Taylor Swift tattooed
Yeah,
on his arm? I love that for
yeah,
y'all.
yeah. Golly. Well, we did celebrate Mother's Day in prison with our
We did.
prison moms. We made sure that they had Mother's Day cards and maybe picked a rose from outside that we weren't supposed to pick. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we did celebrate Mother's Day, in there,
Well,
and
and
of
if your
course,
girlfriend knew you were a mom, you got a lot of gifts and love that day. What is going on with all the hearts?
I don't know why it's doing that,
Why
but I
won't
can't.
mine do that?
Well, honey, maybe yours isn't really shaped like a heart. I don't know.
Is how about this?
Now that's not very nice. Oh,
Was it let me ask you something as a mom, was it a hard day? Was that Sunday that was Mother's Day a hard day for you in prison, or are you just focused on your prison family and just compartmentalized it and not thought about it? Didn't think about it again?
no, it was hard.
Mhm.
There's a lot, like, thinking about your kids making, Mother's Day stuff at their school, and you being in there. Um, no, it was hard. It was hard thinking about your kids being out there for Mother's Day without you. Like, that was a hard fact, a hard things to swallow. Yeah.
I can't even I can't even imagine, everybody knows I don't have the only child I have is a fur baby kitty, and she's laying on the couch right now asleep, and I love her very much, but at the end of the day, she's a cat, and if she ran away, I'd be sad and probably just a fond memory later, but, I can't imagine, um, being separated from your children. I don't even know what that bond completely I guess I can think of my family bonds, especially my great-grandmother who was extremely tied to and close to, um, so I can only think about it in those terms, like, what that must feel times 50, in terms of an emotional bond, so
When I went to prison, I left 5 kiddos at home, and so kind of 2 groups, right? I had 2 babies and 3 middle schoolers. Out of the middle schoolers, my middle kiddo, he always needed, like, a little extra attention, in different ways. Like, there were times where I would keep him home from school so we could hang out and do things, or just just little things, not all the time, but just he needed that. Um, and I think he all my kids took it very hard when I was gone, horribly hard, but I
mm,
think it hit him, um, especially hard, and I would dream all the time that he was somehow in prison with me,
mm,
like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna see a lot this week. We're gonna see a lot of posts from advocacy groups about how many moms are incarcerated, and just the foolishness of locking away all of these women, and that are the percentage of them that were already their children's primary caregivers. Like, it's just wild, wild numbers. But I use that, right? Like, I was away from my kids, and there were people out here that were stepping up for my kids. My
mhm,
mom, their dad's mom, aunts, like, there were a lot of people really stepping up for my kids, and as I was mothering these younger people on the inside, I felt like that was evening the world in some kind of way.
mhm.
Um, like, it was giving me an outlet for my maternal things, and always also so many of those youngsters that we were in there with either were estranged from their own moms, or sometimes it wasn't just about them being away from their mom and needing something in there. Oftentimes it was them not having a mom,
Yeah.
period,
Well,
and
and
needing that.
a lot of them coming from the youth systems, right? Whether that was foster care that channeled them into the juvenile justice system, or family abandons them then, or their moms in prison somewhere. Which that happened too. There were moms that were incarcerated with their daughters.
Yeah,
That was, and I'll tell you something which is interesting. I always found it interesting, is that TDCJ, for the most part, unless they were doing disruptive things, over the years that I was there, would make an effort to at least put mothers and daughters on the same unit. And in Crane, those they lived in the same dorm with each other.
I didn't see that.
Really? God
Yeah,
damn it, Lane
we
Murray.
knew mothers and daughters that were both locked up, and
Mhm,
sometimes they would apply for that special visit, and so one of them would come over to Lane Murray and visit for the weekend. They would get a weekend where,
mhm.
and then the other daughter would be shipped, or the kid would be shipped back off to their home unit. There was an older, I'm gonna say an old, because the daughter was my mom's age, and then her mom was incarcerated, and they were on the same unit for a time, and then they got separated.
Wow. I guess it maybe at the time, the Crane unit, or maybe just I don't know, maybe it's just a practice that they've practiced for so long that it wasn't it wasn't like, how they'll sometimes keep co-defendants separated, or, um yeah, there are actual mothers incarcerated with their actual, children, whether that's on the same unit or in the same system. So, and especially if you're a young person and your mom's, maybe they're incarcerated in jail or in another state,
Yeah.
or, um, so you were, I mean, you were trying to return that care and energy that somebody was doing for people were doing for your kids. You were able to do that for some young people, you know?
Well, shout out to the prison mamas that are in there right now taking care of other people's youngsters, and, monitoring the TV and breaking up squabbles, and, yeah, we have just a minute left, Laurie, so I can't go into detail, but my I was fortunate that I have enough family support that I was able to maintain somewhat of a relationship with my kiddos through visitation, phone calls, and letters. Um, it's not the same, and it's a everyday process. This will be my 4th Mother's Day home, and all of my kids were excited for me to be home, but there have been lots of things that come up. And no, it's not, yes, it's difficult. It's not an easy task. Um, it's difficult, but every day gets easier. So we just keep moving forward. Um, and I'll give just a really quick advice for moms that have been incarcerated, is just to be a safe space for your kids to be able to say exactly how they feel about
Mhm,
whatever it is. And when you get that feedback, don't be defensive and don't try to explain it. Let
mhm.
them feel that. Those feelings are valid. So, yeah. Okay. Shout out to the prison moms that are inside. Shout out to the mamas that have folks incarcerated or have had dealt with it, and that's my mom 100%. And just all the folks out here taking care of each other, whether you have your own biological kiddos or not, no matter who you're mothering, Taylor's mom included, tune.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
she's over there napping.
yeah.
I do mother her quite a bit. It is where I get to practice and use my somewhat maternal in
Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We appreciate your support. It is our favorite night of the week. Thank you for commenting and all the love that you give us on all of our um, platforms. We love you so much. We'll be back here next week, same time, same place. Leave a review if you're listening, and we will see y'all then. Thank y'all for hanging out with us on the Rec Yard Women's Prison Podcast with Marcy Marie and Tunti. Make sure and subscribe to our channel